Updates and interviews, the only way is the right way. I might say, nobody doing it better. Y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the team WSN.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host as always, Daniel Alameda, Jimmy on the ones and twos. A lot of stuff to get into, but before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Let's start over in Indianapolis, Daniel. The Colts have a situation arising a little bit in my eyes, and it's at the quarterback spot. And the question that I need to ask is Anthony Richardson going to be the lead man for the Colts? Is he the guy that the Colts should be depending their futures and their hopes upon? Or or will he prove us all wrong, if you will? Yesterday's game, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback saying to his coach that he needs to tap out because he was tired. Jimmy, roll the clip.
Tired, I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there, what I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told Sam I just needed a break right there.
So, I mean, for me, there's a couple things there. Why are you happy? Why are you smiling after your team just lost in a division battle? One, number two, why does it always seem like there is something with Anthony Richardson, whether it be the health, whether it be, because to me, I think all this comes down to conditioning. I think all this comes down to, is he going to be able to withstand a 17-game season, soon to be 18, next collective bargaining agreement? Is he going to be the guy that's going to be able to withstand all of that for the Colts long term and deal with all the pressure, all the pressure and all the, the wear and tear that comes with a long NFL season? Daniel, what say you?
Malik, I've got a lot of thoughts on this, to be honest. I think Anthony Richardson, and Malik, I'm going to bag on him. I'm sorry. I think that this is a situation where we can bag on him and we can criticize and we can look at it objectively and say, hey, first off, he's just not been good enough. That's something where you look at the expectation. This is one of my issues with the NFL in general, with NFL fan bases in general, to where we expect our guy to be the next big thing. And yes, Anthony Richardson had a lot of hype coming out of the draft. Yes, we've seen quarterbacks like a Josh Allen, come into the draft, big arm, big intangibles, and it ends up working out. But we never gave this dude, Anthony Richardson, a chance to develop. So that's the first part I want to discuss, right? Is, hey, he was never given a chance to develop. He started, I believe, 8 games at most at college, and he didn't look amazing. His numbers were great, and he had flash plays and he had the highlights, but there was still a lot of inconsistencies. There were interceptions, there was turnovers, there was a lot of concerns with them heading out of the draft. But respectfully, the Colts went out and they made the pick and they said, hey, we need a guy to sell to our fan base. We need a guy to invest in our future. And that was Anthony Richardson. And then last year, they saw 2 full games of him, and he looked dynamic. He looked like a potential Jalen Hurts-esque quarterback. But the one thing always stayed true. First off, he had a turnover issue. And number 2, he just wasn't necessarily the most accurate quarterback. And that's also another thing. Right now, Malik, he's on pace to have the worst completion percentage in NFL history by a quarterback. He's completing 44% of his passes. You go look at yesterday, he completed 10 of 32. The game before, 10 of 24. He's just not a very accurate quarterback. They're just a dysfunctional offense right now. But let's go to the main point. Anthony Richardson as your franchise quarterback. He needs to be a guy that everybody can look at and be confident in. And he's just not that guy right now, not necessarily because of his personality, but also because of how inactive he's been, because of how unavailable he's been. And that's not necessarily to his fault, but that's the fact of the matter, right? Availability is the best ability. And the fact of the matter is he has not been available. You looked at last year, only played 2 games. You look at this year, he's been in and out of the lineup. They've been rolling out Joe Flacco, then bringing Anthony Richardson in. And that brings me to the number one point of yesterday's game, what that signals for me, Malik. It signals that the dude respectfully, he's just not super serious right now. That looked like a response that I would say after a game of Madden.
Mhm.
That looked like a response that I would say after, a game of pickup basketball. Like, yo, like I just took a break. Like he's laughing like it was a joke. And that's the hard part when you look at these fans. And I'm going to use what Pat McAfee said. And I think Pat McAfee has credibility because he is a Colts fan. And he was very upset. He was very disappointed. And you look at previous Colts quarterbacks, Malik, you look at Peyton Manning, you look at Andrew Luck, what they dealt with and what they went through. Andrew Luck went through a punctured lung, and Peyton Manning went through multiple injuries and played through these. And maybe that's the expectation, but that's not what Anthony Richardson is. So at this point, all I'm going to say is I'm not going to rule out Anthony Richardson being the franchise quarterback. I'm not going to rule out him being a good quarterback. But the expectation for me right now is low. The expectation is not a superstar quarterback. The expectation is a guy that has potential, but he has to work on the mundane tasks of staying healthy and also just, being in, coordination with his receivers. So I think he still showed potential. And I think that the 44% completion percentage is not indicative of the quarterback that he will be.
No.
But what he said on the podium, if I were a teammate, I don't know how I would feel. And that would make me, it would make me need to see something out of Anthony Richardson in the next couple of weeks. Say, hey, I need to see you, fight for me. But I'm not going to say that this dude doesn't fight for his team because he puts his body on the line. He has multiple injuries because of him putting his body on the line. But for him to say that, especially in a game after you lost, it was definitely a little raise some flags for me.
Well, I would say it's about the way you approach the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the way you approach the game. And I think, do you approach the game professionally? And I think that this is going to be an area of focus for Anthony, or should be an area of focus for Anthony Richardson this upcoming offseason. But this is why, the vetting process of a quarterback is so important. It's beyond just, okay, we see a guy with a big arm, he's usually talented, this guy makes sense for our team. It's, okay, do they have the right chops to lead effectively? Are they going to be the guy that we can rely on to lead our team into the future? And if the answer is outside of a resounding yes, then I think you should. I think it's going to, unquestionably is going to raise some questions, raise some red flags, if you will. Some people that's going to start to think maybe this guy can't be the guy. I talked about it before, and even last year I said the way he played a lot was putting his body in danger, and we saw that firsthand. And now I'm looking at it with a situation, and it's like, I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't. I feel for the Colts fans right now. I think that it's going to be a situation in which maybe it would behoove the Colts to put Joe Flacco in right now over him. Maybe they can get a lot more out of a guy like Joe Flacco. Maybe Joe Flacco could teach him how to be a professional, because when you are a quarterback of a team, a franchise quarterback of a team where you get drafted early, you are undoubtedly the CEO of that team, the spokesperson of that team. And if you are tapping out early, no matter how tired you are, there are multiple ways you can go about that. Hey, maybe you check into a run play, whatever the case may be. You do whatever it takes to be out there for your team every single snap. Don't want to put too much time onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Richardson got to do better, my man. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Another crazy moment that happened yesterday. Well, Tyrique Stevenson and the Chicago Bears give up a huge Hail Mary. It was a battle of the number 2 and 1 quarterback in this year's respective NFL draft, and the number 2 quarterback won out in Jaden Daniels. Jimmy, roll the clip. So, I mean, just Tyrique Stevenson, yeah, boneheaded move right there, right? You literally have opportunity to help seal a game, and your guy that you're responsible for gets behind, gives up a huge touchdown, and a play that, for whatever reason, you thought, was over. They say it ain't over till all zeros on the clock. Give up a huge Hail Mary. Obviously, I don't know if I rate this victory as highly as other people could for the Washington Commanders, but the fact of the matter, they found a way to go out there with a victory. But you let your team down. You let your team down by making a boneheaded decision. On the take of and the talk of professionalism. Wow, that's another boneheaded decision, boneheaded play right there. I do respect the fact that Tyrique Stevenson came out there and he put out a tweet saying, "Hey, Bears Nation, hey, Chicago, I've got to be better. I should be, locked in on the game 24/7. I shouldn't be celebrating because a game is still going on. A game is still to be played. But I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was I haven't seen a Hail Mary get completed like that in the dramatic fashion like that since I was probably in high school.
Mhm.
And for me, it was like these are things that you're taught at a very young age. Hey, bat the ball down, swat the ball down. Don't, always stay locked on the defender because honestly, a Hail Mary really is a crapshoot, right? The ball gets batted around. Who does the ball end up with? And I feel like we've seen more completions from the Hail Mary in years recently than what it is than what it's been in years past. And I don't know, Daniel, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that when I look at, there was also a video of Caleb Williams on the sideline.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
this team is dejected from this. I think that this serves as good moments for Bears fans to say, hey, how did your team respond from this? And I think that this is what's going to make, the future of the Bears. Hey, this team, they've got talent. Their defense looked damn good yesterday. You got Caleb Williams. You've got the roster and you've got the makeup of a team that could potentially be that next, that next team that pushes for consistent playoff, success. And my biggest takeaway from this is, how do they bounce back, right? I think that Tyrique Stevenson did a very good job, and that's the first step. Take accountability. And then the next step is go out there and perform next week. So all around, I thought that this was a, very fascinating situation. I thought it was hilarious seeing him celebrate. And then it was just frustrating. You hope that he learned from it because it was his guy. Noah Brown was his matchup, his assignment, and he was the one that got behind him. He didn't even stick with him throughout any portion of the route. So I think this shows where the Bears currently are at right now. Even looking at Caleb Williams' reaction, he was upset, he was pissed off, and you can tell it was very emotional. But this is not indicative of where the Bears can be. So I think that, and we were discussing about this yesterday, just real quick, like Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. I think that this is going to help make Caleb Williams more underrated in the sense, right? You look at this matchup, Jaden Daniels goes on Instagram Live after the game. The Commanders are riding high. Everyone's all over the Jaden Daniels train. This is going to give Caleb Williams some time to, hey, he's not necessarily in the spotlight right now as he was before the season, as he was before the draft. So this Bears team, I like what they've got going on. This was just a boneheaded mistake. This was a game that they had in hand, and it took a 65 to 70-yard pass to beat them. So all around, I thought this was a crazy situation. Like you said, this was the first real Hail Mary that I've seen affect a game in quite some time. And just looking at this, like I said, it was hilarious. And I'm excited to see how the Bears bounce back from this. And
yeah, it's going to be interesting, honestly. Yeah. I know I keep saying, I feel like that's the theme of today's show. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I feel like I keep saying that, but no, it genuinely is because but to me, I feel like this is going to be a testament to Caleb Williams' leadership, though, too. I feel like this is going to be a spot in which we find out what kind of leader Caleb Williams is. And, a guy that came in with a lot of checks and regarding that, oh, he's too emotional. Oh, he's too invested in his own brand. Okay, well, how do you respond? Right? Everybody gets punched in the mouth in the NFL. Nobody goes undefeated. No quarterback has amazing performances. No team goes out there and wins every single game always. How do you respond to that? And I think that's going to be the true measurement of a leader. That's why when you decide to invest the number one overall pick into a guy, you want to make sure you're getting certain qualities, certain characteristic traits out of him. Leadership is a huge thing here. Leadership is going to be a huge thing for a guy like Caleb Williams. And I'm excited to see how he's going to be able to lead his team effectively moving forward. Let's move on over to we're staying in the NFC. Let's move on over to the Dallas Cowboys. We've been talking about the Dallas Cowboys a lot on the show recently, and we've talked about how we feel like things are starting to unravel a little bit like that. Jerry's world is starting to crumble in front of him. And I honestly think Jerry has a lot of blame to take in this, putting a little bit too much pressure on these guys, always being the voice for this team rather than the coach. No one cares what Mike McCarthy thinks. Everybody cares what Jerry Jones thinks because you have an owner that is so invested in the successes of this team. Well, we're in a situation now where things are starting to unravel, not just on the field, but all certainly off the field as well, where you have now players going at reporters and telling reporters to suck his nuts and do all this weird stuff. I mean, it really is interesting right now to see what's taking place in Dallas. If you didn't get to see the clip, Jimmy, roll the clip.
You don't know football. You can't do nothing that I do. You can't go out there and do nothing. Stay in your lane, buddy. Stop playing me, bro.
Just asking a question, Trevon. I mean, I'm happy to have you answer the question.
That whole play, that's what you took for that? That's what you got from that whole play, that's what you got from that?
I'm asking you. We can talk about it more. What were you doing then?
Yeah, so Diggs told the reporter to suck his nuts, and like told him you don't know football and all this crap. What did you think of that, man, Danny? What did you make of all that situation, the whole debacle? I mean, first of all, you see it's obvious you're dealing with an athlete that's frustrated, that's tired of losing, that's pissed off, and obviously is at a point in which it's now he's starting to make outlandish comments off the field towards a reporter that's simply doing their job over a goddamn graphic, man. I mean, are we serious? This is what it's come to? Daniel, what are your thoughts?
I think I've got two thoughts. I think personally, and this is just my opinion, I think the media needs to do better.
Mhm.
And the reason why, if you guys didn't see the tweet, he went out and Trevon Diggs on that play, he was pointing out, the reporter was pointing out that Trevon Diggs didn't try hard enough to tackle the guy.
Mhm.
And when you look at it, it definitely looks like he pulls up and doesn't necessarily go as hard as. So I think, sure, it's fair. We can criticize, the effort of Trevon Diggs, but I don't think, and I think that Trevon Diggs was in his right to defend himself. I think the athletes are in their right to defend themselves. And I think that that's just where the state of the Cowboys are. I think this is a good, moment to say, hey, the Cowboys are at a point where they feel like they have to defend themselves, where they feel like the performance on the field isn't good enough, so they've got to take it out, out elsewhere. And that's what just concerns me about this Cowboys team and where they're at. Dak Prescott did not look good. Dak Prescott has not looked like a superstar quarterback. This Cowboys team has looked very abysmal at certain moments. And like I said, I think that Trevon Diggs, am I mad at him for confronting the reporter? No. Is it concerning and is it disappointing for a Cowboys leader to be, doing that after the game? I think it is. And I think it's indicative of where this Cowboys team is. They're a team that is all over the media. They're a team that, isn't necessarily in-house, right? And that's the biggest, thing when you look at teams that are contenders and teams that win and teams that are take it to the next level. Last year, the Detroit Lions, how did they get, so far to the NFC Championship? It was, hey, in-house, what is the culture we've got going on? Dan Campbell setting the tone, players, in their locker room versus this Cowboys team. And there's been multiple reports, the past couple of weeks. Hey, this Cowboys, it's just different in Dallas, right? The way they go about their business, the way that fans are able to, interrupt their workout sessions, all this outside noise, I feel like is getting to the players. And that's what the state of the Cowboys are. And I don't think that changes now. And I don't think that really ever changes until it starts at the top, until Jerry Jones, until you get a head coach, something else changes. And that's the state of the Cowboys right now. I truly believe that they're a team that has a ton of talent. I believe that they're a team that will have success at times. But man, just looking at what Trevon Diggs said, and it was a fascinating video that you showed me yesterday. It was hilarious. And like I said, I didn't know the full scope of it. And Trevon Diggs, I'm sure that's the first thing he saw after the game. He's pissed off. His team, they should have won that game, but they got dog walked. And that was the first thing he saw. And he went right to the reporter. I respect him for going up right to the reporter saying it, but this shows like us talking about them. And this gets people discussing outside of what actually happened on the field.
Dude, do your job. That's my thing. Like, why are you going at a reporter? It's your job to go out there and play football. It's his job to call the game how he saw it or how he sees it effectively. If you don't like what he says, okay, you don't have to talk to the reporter. But going up there talking about something, what? You don't know football. You don't do this. And it's always interesting to me. Guys in media never know how to call the game football when it's a player that is having a bad game or played poorly. It's always that. It's never, oh, sir, you're having a great game. You don't know football. Like, well, because I'm praising you. So when I'm praising you, I know football. Yeah. When I'm criticizing you, I don't know football. Which one is it? And there's this weird thought that as well as, oh, well, if you didn't play the game, if you didn't play in the NFL, you don't have a right to speak on it. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's not true. There's so many people that, are better coaches, right, than they are when they were players. There are so many people out there who are great at calling the game or giving their take on the game that never suited up or down. Maybe it causes them to look at things a little bit more objectively. I don't know. I just think that that's very interesting. And Gary Jellison said, Malik, what would you say if a player told you you don't know football? That has been said to me already. And obviously, in a moment like that, in which tensions are extremely high, I digress. I'd rather not, make a situation worse. You're certainly, welcome on this show at any point in time, and we can discuss, or we can have a debate, and we can see how much football I actually know. I'm down for that. I'm not here to say that I know more football than a guy that literally spends so much time in meeting rooms and going over coverages on a regular basis, and they know the ins and out of a certain playbook. But what I will say is, I think everybody should be respected in their respective profession, and part of professional sports is covering the game professionally, right? It's the media's job to cover it professionally and objectively, no matter what the players may think, no matter what coaches may think. There are things that they don't like to see us talk about, and there are going to be things that we say that's going to push certain hotbed buttons, and that's absolutely fine. But it's the person's job to do it. Like Trevon Diggs, like you going at that reporter does not change the outcome of the game. It doesn't come out change the outcome of the play. It happened. Move on. You don't like what the reporter said. You don't like what the reporter tweeted. All right, move on from it. Don't speak to him. That's just my thought process on it. If you guys could do us a favor, we got almost 50 plus people in this chat. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. We certainly go live each and every single day. So we have so much content on the horizon, so many awesome stuff planned for you guys. So just make sure you guys go ahead and give that video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm not sure if we have a video for this next clip. We do? Okay, making sure. I want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons, but before we jump into it, man, somebody said it. Kirk Cousins been in Atlanta way too long, man. He's been in Atlanta way too long. We're talking about walking your trap, take over your trap. Hey, let's roll the clip on Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons, Jimmy.
We walking your trap, take over your trap. We walking your trap, take over your trap. We find the trap, we find the trap. We find no trap, we find no trap. We walking your trap, take over your 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 trap.
So yeah, walking your trap, take over your trap. Kirk O'Chains is definitely in his bag, I would say. I would definitely say Kirk Cousins is definitely embodying everything that Atlanta is, man. What are your thoughts, man, on Atlanta Falcons? You think the Atlanta Falcons are legit contenders? You think they're – because I'm be honest with you, I still think the Buccaneers and they played a hell of a game yesterday. It was awesome. But I got to ask you that question. Do you think that the Atlanta Falcons are a legit threat with Kirk Cousins? I don't feel they are, but I'm really curious to your thoughts, Daniel.
I think that they are. And at least the threat of winning the division and making some noise in the playoffs. I do think that Kirk Cousins as a player isn't necessarily – he's not a superstar quarterback, but when you just first off look at his numbers that he's put up against this Buccaneers team, I mean, dude's completing 75% of his passes. I think he's got 8 passing touchdowns against the Buccaneers in 2 games. And when I look at this Falcons team, they're starting to get rolling. And this is a team where it really is the rest of the division isn't great. The Buccaneers are seriously dealing with some injuries, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I like what the Falcons have going on. Do I think that they're going to be able to take that next step? I don't know if they're going to make serious noise in the playoffs. I think that they have the capabilities to win at least one playoff game, but they're not of the upper echelon of the Detroit Lions, of the Green Bay Packers. But I like what they got going on. I like the fact that, like, something like Kirk Cousins, he's been a fan favorite. He's been a team favorite everywhere he's gone. You go look at, the Washington Commanders. He's got the famous, "You like that" speech. And the same thing, go look at what he did with the Minnesota Vikings. The teammates loved him. When he left Minnesota, all the teammates were pissed off. They were annoyed. And it was a move that obviously Kirk Cousins wanted to make, and it just wasn't working out with Minnesota. But he's been loved by his team. So I don't feel like that's been the issue. But we're going to have the same conversation come playoff time, come late in the season. He is a fine quarterback. He is a good quarterback, but he's in the same tier, in my opinion, of a Geno Smith, of, these quarterbacks like a Dak Prescott, to where they're going to put up great stretches, but it's really going to come down to Raheem Morris is going to come down to this coaching staff to say, hey, are we putting these guys, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, in the right position? And if they're not, I think that this team's going to see some issues in the playoffs.
So I got to push back on that. So you said that they are threats with him, though.
I think so.
So how can you say he's on the same tier as a Geno Smith, or those guys afterwards if you don't really see him as on the upper echelon of some of the other quarterbacks.
Well, I don't think that's for me. I don't think that's a fault. I think Dak Prescott is a quarterback that can lead his team to multiple playoff victories.
Well, we saw Nick. I'm just pushing.
No,
back a
yeah,
little bit. We saw Nick Foles do that, right?
No.
We saw Nick Foles win a championship with the Ravens through it with a loaded roster.
Yeah.
But you said you basically don't see him on the same tier as some of these upper echelon quarterbacks, but you think you see them as a threat. But it's going to come down to Raheem Morris and all that kind of. I get where you're coming from. I get. I think your stance a little bit. I just don't know what has Kirk Cousins shown us through his long NFL career. I think he's shown that, hey, I've had some really talented teams. My teams are going to be uberly competitive, but when the time comes, he's a choke artist.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, up until this year, the guy was terrible in prime time. And even this year, he wasn't been great in prime time, but the guy hasn't even produced in prime time.
Yeah.
And I think it's whenever the lights get too bright, the stage too big, Kirk Cousins reverts to in a simply below average quarterback sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at it, I see where you're coming from. I just don't know how we can say, hey, yes, they have clear deficiencies. Yes, he has this struggle here, but we still see him as a potential, I don't know, championship contender.
Championship contender, I think, is different. I think that they're like, if we're discussing the teams, I think that they are on the same tier, if not above the Buccaneers. I think that there's only
I don't know about that.
3 clear-cut teams. I think the Green Bay Packers, I think the Detroit Lions, and the Minnesota Vikings. And I guess you could consider the 49ers in there as well. But if we're discussing teams, I think the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that these teams are all in that same tier of, hey, I think that they could all go win a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, it's going to take something miraculous. And like I said, that's what I like what the Falcons have going on. But it really is going to come down to, I haven't been super confident in the usage of Bijan, the usage of Pitts, the usage of Drake London. And for me, I have 10 games in front of me for the Falcons to learn and to grow with that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Baker Mayfield is better than a Kirk Cousins? I think he is.
I think Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins.
Right.
So
For me, I look at it, and while I look at the Falcons and I say, hey, the Falcons have so much talent on their team, I still feel like there's a gap a little bit from the quarterback putting it all together. At least Baker Mayfield instills the belief. He's fiery. He's a guy who's going to be a gunslinger. He's going to give you opportunity. He's playing with the utmost confidence right now. I would take a guy like Baker Mayfield over a guy like Kirk Cousins any day. And I'll tell you what, I think as the season moves on, I think you'll start to see this Buccaneers team rattle off more wins than this Falcons team, because I think at some point Kirk Cousins is going to revert back to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, though. I think that Kirk Cousins has shown that he's Kirk Cousins, and they're still doing fine. They're still doing good, and that's where it really is going to come down. I think this is the best situation with talent around him that Kirk Cousins has truly ever been. And obviously, he had Jefferson in Minnesota, and obviously that playoff game against the New York Giants was something where they had it handed to them, and they couldn't take advantage of that. But I think that this team has the talent, but I'm with you. I think that right now, if the Falcons' MO is they've got all the talent, they've got the weapons, they've got the players on defense, they just haven't put it all together. Yeah. Maybe I'm being wishful thinking that this coaching staff is going to be something special, but I'm going to be honest, right? Kirk Cousins, like you said, we know who Kirk Cousins is. I think Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that can win in the playoffs. Like you said, the Nick Foles, it doesn't necessarily matter how much of a superstar your quarterback is if you have elite coaching. And in their first season, Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, I think that this is going to be the test to say, hey, how good are they going to be? Is Raheem Morris a legit top 10 coach, or is he just another coach that's just going through the motions? So that's what would concern me. You got Bijan, you got Drake, you got Kyle Pitts, who had 2 tutties and 100+ yards, 80+ yards yesterday. If you can't win with Kirk Cousins this season, you're going to start looking at the guy behind him, Michael Penix Jr., saying, hey, let's put him in and see what the road looks like there.
Okay. Guys, let us know what you guys think in the comment section about the Atlanta Falcons and their overall future there. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live, when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Listen, let's move on over to Cincinnati. Well, we're here in Cincinnati. Let's stay here in Cincinnati. Let's talk Cincinnati. The Bengals season is causing a lot of fans to feel doubt about the coaching staff. People are calling for the head of Zach Taylor. And obviously this will be a conversation we can have throughout the week. and things we talk about throughout the week. But, people are asking ourselves, is the Bengals season in doubt? You're 0-4 at home. You are 500 in your division right now as it stands, but you're 3-5. And the expectation was so much higher going into this year with a healthy Burrow, Joe Burrow playing lights out for the majority of the season. And the defense seems to be what the Achilles heel of this team is, as well as the offense in spots, not putting up at least, 24 points, 25 points each and every single game. It's just ridiculous. It's ludicrous. And, yesterday was a game that it felt like the Bengals had a lot of stuff in hand, and then it kind of just slipped away from them, Daniel. But a lot of people are asking this. So the question is the season over? Is the season of the Cincinnati Bengals over? And that's how people feel right now. People want to have this conversation. People want to have this dialogue. I want to get to Wes Huday. He says, Malik, don't give him no excuses. You like to at times. I don't think I ever give anybody excuses. I think if anybody, I'm the only person in the media who holds this coaching staff to the fire. So me and excuses don't go hand in hand ever. So that being said, I think it's ridiculous personally. I think that yesterday's performance was abysmal. I think that you expect more from this football team on a consistent basis. And I think that I think you can have coaches that can help reset culture. And then you have to ask yourself, will this coach be the coach that takes us over the top? And that was always the thing with me. I always felt like Zach Taylor was a merchant of who his family was, which is why he, in large part, got the job that he got. In the, I look at it, man, and I say, I don't know if I believe he's the coach to take the Bengals where they're expecting to go. I certainly would like to see some more organizational changes from the front office, because clearly there's something that needs to change from a mentality standpoint. I don't know if the fix is just as easy as getting rid of a Duke Tobin, although I can certainly see that being a thing. I have a hard time seeing that, because he is basically a part of the family at this point in time. He's a guy who's been a part of the staff for so long. I feel like almost like he's a Bengal lifer, unless like he chooses to step down or walk away for whatever reasons. I look at it and I say, hey, you know what? Organizationally, I think structurally there needs to be some changes from a mentality. And that could be the way you approach trades, the trade deadline. That could be a way that you approach free agency. That could be a way that you approach just the overall game on a regular basis. There needs to be a mentality shift of leaving no stone unturned, finding a way to get better over and over and over again, right? You look at the roster and you look at hiccups on the roster, and you look at a situation in which your left tackle right now, when Orlando Brown is out, is Cody Ford, right? Mm-hmm. You saw that as susceptible. You saw that as, okay, that's something that we're fine with. You look at the guard spot and you see the injuries that have mounted through the last few seasons. And you let guys like Max Sharping, who albeit weren't amazing, but they did their job when they were in here. You let those guys walk out of the door. There definitely seems to be a disconnect if the fan base, people whose job isn't to really mind the X's and O's or even really look at this roster constructively speaking, if they can point out issues or areas of concern for this football team and the front office can't, I think that's a big issue. I think that's a big extremely red flag. I think that there needs to be a come to Jesus meeting with themselves, and they need to realize, okay, are we doing everything in our power to make sure that we're putting this roster and our quarterback, Joe Burrow, is having a standout season in the best position to succeed? One can make the argument that they have done that with Joe Burrow with the immense talent that he does have. Okay, well, on the offensive line side of things, if you're one tackle away from being able to put out a sufficient offense, I don't think that's doing everything in your power to help your quarterback, especially knowing that your starting left tackle was going into that game with an injured knee, a bum knee. You knew that already. To me, being in the front office, being a leader of an organization isn't just what you do in the offseason, it's what you do in the season. It's about being able to adapt in season and make the necessary changes and the adjustments in order to, put together a championship-led roster. To me, it's obviously nothing's a quick fix, but being aggressive. Like, what's good is it to have all these picks, right? You had 11 picks in the last year's draft. What good is it to have all these picks in the draft if you don't utilize them to the best of your ability? Why don't you be aggressive out there? Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to be thinking about that pick, that second round pick, that third round pick when the draft time comes, if you're able to whoever you wind up trading that pick for, allows you to, be in contention. To me, it's not that much of a rocket science, right? Obviously, I don't want you going out here like the Rams and just trading away multiple first-round picks, but there has to be some type of aggression here. There has to be some type of, hey, how can we get better this season to help us? Because the season is still right in front of you. You're operating like the season's over, and it's not. It's not. But this thought process that we're fine with the roster that we have. Well, no, you've lost your starting cornerback to an ACL injury. Your left tackle has a bum knee injury. You've shown no ability to have the ability to stop the run consistently because you went out there and you hired two guys whose didn't hire it. You brought another guy whose specialty was rushing the passer, and your other guy's specialty is what? Rushing the passer. Like, come on now. To me, it's not rocket science. Being aggressive is important. Look at what the Chiefs do.
Yep.
This is a team that's undefeated on the season, and they're still being aggressive out there. They're still looking to make acquisitions to their roster to help them in the long run. And Shafi, I hear what you're saying. He says, season's over, bro. It doesn't have to be. That's the thing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. But it's the reason why we feel it's over. The reason why people feel it's over is because you can look at the MO of this front office, of this coaching staff, and you know, well, the aggression to try and get better is just not there. It's not there. They need to make a decision right now because I think that they can make one or two moves right now that could help their season. Defensively and offensively speaking, but primarily defensively. I think they can make one or two moves right now that could help this team. And no, I'm not saying said player. I'm saying a positional group. You can look at it and you say, hey, this is what we need to do right now to help our season. We'll go out there and do it. Find a way to get better. That's what good teams do. This is what, people say, I'm in my blah, blah, blah era. Well, the Bengals should be in their championship hunting era. What does that look like for them? What does hunting for a championship look like for you? Does it mean sitting around and just saying the players that we have on our roster are who we feel comfortable with? That's a poor ass way of looking at it. And Zach, I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to eventually cost you your job, if not literally, figuratively. And what I mean by that is you're losing this fan base. You're losing these players. And what happens when everything starts to revolt? What happens when you have a Joe Burrow-led Bengals team, Joe Burrow healthy, and you have people not packing Paycor Stadium? What happens then? Winless at home? Unacceptable. Can't be the standard. Talk too much about culture. Being too cheap. Find a way to get better. The Rams invested everything, and we knew it was going to blow up in their face, and it has. They invested everything for a championship, but guess what? Nobody could ever say Sean McVay was never all in. No one could ever say the Rams didn't care about winning. And I'm sorry, this Bengals roster head to toe is more talented than that Rams roster that won that championship. And obviously, every year is different. Every year is different. And Gary Jellison, I see what you're saying. But Malik, we know the team's MO. They don't do that. And that's my outcry right now. We know that already. But something's got to give. I was brought in to be new media, which is why I have no care in the world to put a mic in front of Zach Taylor's face each and every single, Monday and Thursday when he speaks to the team, whatever day it is. It's got to get better. It's got to get better. The aggression needs to get better. You need to start operating like a team that wants to win a championship if you want to win a championship. And this isn't just for this season. This is for future seasons as well. Just because you came into the season with this roster doesn't mean you have to leave the season with this roster. Find a way to get better. Find a way to scour the market. See who's available for a trade. Be aggressive. This is pitiful. This is sad. People shouldn't be calling this season over at 3-5. You still can find a way to climb out of this thing. It's your reluctance to get out of your own way. You talk about saving this money. We want to keep our guys. But are you even keeping your guys? Are you even making the necessary moves to keep those said guys, which is holds you from, spending that money or trading for said player? Are you leaving no stone unturned? Because I can look at it right now and say no. You can talk all you want about money. Whoever you trade for right now is not going to impact you when it comes time to sign Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is still going to get that contract. But I can tell you what it could impact. It could impact Jamar Chase's intentions on wanting to be here because, hey, who wants to be on a team, on a roster, or in a front office that isn't willing to do everything in their power to achieve, a championship? To me, it's very simple. Making it rocket science. That's the issue right here. Daniel, what say you?
Yeah, you're right, Malik. And I think there's multiple avenues for how the Bengals look right now. I think the first thing, and you brought up the great point, this is the part where how the Bengals operate as an organization in the sense of your Super Bowl window is now. You understand that. And my issue is, Malik, let me just list some of these teams that have been aggressive. And that's the part that is the hard sell to the fan base that we don't understand, because you're operating as if you've won a Super Bowl. And that's the discussion, right? You're looking at your team 5 years down the road saying, hey, we can't make this trade because we need that third round pick later. Malik, hear me out. Last year, the 49ers went out and they traded for Chase Young, and they gave up a fourth round, third round, something. And they were a team that was looking to win a Super Bowl. They went out, they made a move this year. The Chiefs got DeAndre Hopkins. The Bills got Amari Cooper 2 years ago. The 49ers went out, made a move for Christian McCaffrey. Last year, the Eagles knew their secondary was garbage, so they went out, they traded for Kevin Byard. The Dolphins 3 years ago or 2 years ago thought they were in championship contention, so they went out, they traded for Bradley Chubb. They went out, got Jeff Wilson. The Ravens 3 years ago traded for Roquan Smith, completely transformed that defense. The Rams, the year they won the Super Bowl, went out and traded for Von Miller mid-season. These are the type of teams that are ultra aggressive. And hell, it's not even ultra aggressive if you're giving up a third round pick, right? And that's the discussion we discussed. And now switching the conversation over to Duke Tobin, right? With what they do with the talent. Third round picks, you look at which ones have really panned out for the Bengals. There have been some, but that's not a premium pick. That's not a high first round pick. That's not a high second round pick. So that's where the frustration is, right? When you are, respectfully, this team is in desperation mode. There is no, we'll wait to see next year. Joe Burrow's hurt, so we can rely on that. He'll be healthy next year. This should be pull out all the stops right now. You cannot continue as you are continuing right now. And that's the frustrating part about this team. They just continue to operate as if they've been operating. And they're looking at the fact that they went to one Super Bowl, Malik, that they went to the AFC Championship and they were extremely close against the Chiefs, that every year it's going to be given to you. And that's not how this season has gone. And that switches me over, Malik, to the part about this Eagles game that we discussed on the post-game show. If you guys want to go check that out, yesterday did a very good job. Malik Zim, you guys can check that out on the channel. It was a perfect encapsulation of exactly how this Bengals team has looked and what the state of the Bengals are. You have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase consistently bailing out, albeit they are superstars and they should be doing this, consistently bailing out the offense, right? Broken play. Joe Burrow tells Jamar Chase to go back. That's been a consistent theme time in and time again. And no running game. So Joe Burrow even said this, it puts more pressure on the passing offense. So that can be attributed to the coaching staff. That can be attributed to, the schemes about not putting enough emphasis on the rushing game. And then the mindset of this team after the fourth down. And this was the red flag that I took away from Zach Taylor's press conference. Hey, he said when they didn't get that fourth down, he felt sick to his stomach. That was on his mind, pretty much the rest of the game. How is that your mindset? And that's what frustrates me, because if that's the mindset of the head man, hey, we made a major mistake and he's operating as if the game was over. And that's something that you cannot have that mindset as the head coach, because if your thought process heading into that fourth down was, this is it. If we don't get this, damn, I'm sick to my stomach and we aren't going to be able to get back from it. If you guys remember, the defense put up a stop. You got to within, you're only down 10 points, albeit it is a big deficit, but the game ain't over. But if the head man, Zach Taylor, is of the mindset, hey, I'm sick to my stomach and then just can't battle back, that's been a consistent theme time and time again. You look at the Ravens game, the overtime, you go run the ball twice. You basically say, hey, we're going to rely on our kicker. We're not going to be aggressive. You go look at the end of the Giants game. We're not going to be aggressive. We're going to run the ball. And then on third down, we're going to hope that Joe Burrow makes a miraculous play. That's what we can pin on the coaching staff. That's what you can pin on Zach Taylor. So there's multiple avenues. The one avenue I think is important, like we touched on, is the talent. But I don't feel the talent is the biggest issue on this team. I think the defensive line, there is serious talent deficiencies. When you look at the defensive safeties, there are serious talent deficiencies. But this team is not a 3-5 team. There are not 8 teams less talented than the Cincinnati, or less talented than the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's what the Bengals are. They are the 9th best team or worst team in the NFL right now. And the talent on this roster is not that. So that leads me to believe the coaching staff is not holding up their end of the bargain. And right now, the biggest thing, I think we have to look at Zach Taylor and say, hey, he is not the answer for this team right now.
Here's what I'll say right now. Hear me out, Bengals. Don't be afraid to restart. If things go the way that it looks like it could be trending, right, missing the playoffs potentially, do me a favor. Do not be afraid to restart. Broncos did it with John Fox. Just because you came in with the coach, just because you believed in the coach, it's okay to admit that the coach got you to a certain point, but maybe it's not the coach to take you over the top. Don't be afraid to restart over with a guy like Duke Tobin as well. So although I don't see that happening, I think the Zach Taylor thing is much more likely than a Duke Tobin thing. Don't be afraid to change the guard. Do not be afraid to change things. Do not waste Joe Burrow's career. Do not waste Jamar Chase's career. You have a very special thing here in Cincinnati, and I am by no means calling for someone's job, but you have to look at the tea leaves. The fact that this is the one year where you get Joe Burrow having a full healthy offseason, you get him out there, and you're winless at home. The fan base is turning on one another. The fan base is turning on this team. We're very close to people putting signs back up during the game. We're very close to that. We're very close to people not showing up to games. I don't think you guys realize that. And then you have the nerve to raise the ticket prices, right? You have the nerve to raise the ticket prices to what you have. We did a ticket giveaway. We had 4 winners to the Games Best. We did almost $2,000. You have the nerve to raise it to that extent. You have the nerve to do all these things, and you ask the team to, people to spend their hard-earned dollars and come out and wear white and white out and, do that for the stadium. And then you look at it and you're putting this product on the football field. It's abysmal. You had a last place schedule and you still found a way to F it up. To me, this is one of those things where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to ask yourself seriously, no matter how much you like the guy, no matter how much the guy resonates with Cincinnati, no much he goes around handing out game balls to bars and stuff like that. Is he the guy of the future? Is he the guy that's going to lead our team long term? Because when you bring in a guy to be a head coach, you have to ask that question. Is he going to be the guy to lead this team long term beyond and beyond? And if the answer isn't a resounding yes, then don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to leave no stone unturned and bring in a coach that can master the X's and O's. A veteran coach, somebody even with a championship pedigree potentially. Don't be afraid, because the situation is that dire. You do not want a Carson Palmer situation on your hands. You do not want that. You want to leave no stone unturned, especially in your championship window. And Bengals, believe me, it can get ugly real fast.
Yeah.
It can get ugly really, really fast. And the reason why I'm talking in this tone is because sometimes people, when they hear me talking, I'm usually really jazzed up. They say, oh, you're too emotional. I'm not being emotional. I'm being very pragmatic about the situation, honestly. You have to look at it and you have to say to yourself, hey, if we want to win a championship, is this the coach that's going to get us over the top? I can answer that for you. I don't believe Zach Taylor is. And if the answer is no, well, you should know what you have to do. Just my thoughts. Leave no stone unturned. Chase a championship. Do right by your quarterback, because Joe Burrow's press conference was probably one of the most depressing things I've seen. He seemed defeated. He seemed dejected. He seemed frustrated. He seemed annoyed. It's the same song and dance. Same song and dance over and over and over and over. What are you going to do to change it? What are you going to do right by that guy? He already signed his contract. He's here. What are you going to do to change it? Ball's in your court, Brown family, Blackburn family. The ball's in your court. But I don't think you're winning with it. I think there's a reason why this coach has gotten fired with every promotion he's been, whether that's be at UC, whether it be as the interim Dolphins offensive coordinator. And there's a reason why. Most successful position he's had in the NFL has been being a quarterback's coach for the Rams with Sean McVay as the head coach. There's a reason why people didn't grade that hire very too high. I think the tea leaves are there. Are you picking up? Are the Bengals putting up? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But if this team misses the playoffs, let me be clear. Zach Taylor should not have a job. That's all I got to say about that. Do me a favor, guys. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live and upload content from the TWSN studios. I'll move over to the UFC. Dana White called out Francis Ngannou in a very lashy way. Jimmy, roll the clip.
Show he should have
Well, no. I didn't like Francis as a person. Wasn't a guy I wanted to do business with. My boys were telling me he's misunderstood. And I told them, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Yeah, it wasn't about him becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. Francis isn't a good guy. He plays the good guy. I don't understand the language. And, so he seems like he's a nice guy. He's not. And he's just not a guy that I wanted to be in business with. Period. End of story. I
don't know about you, Dan, but when I saw that clip, I felt like there was a lot of pain there. I felt like there was a lot of anger there, and it was definitely a lot of animosity there. Saying Francis Ngannou is not a good guy, and doing the whole accent thing was kind of out there for me. What were your thoughts, though?
I think, and I've always been personally, I like Dana White. I think that Dana White has been, obviously he's built the UFC to where it is. I think Dana White, I appreciate him for being brash. I appreciate him for being, fully himself and being fully authentic. But I do think that he has some flaws. And obviously there's some flaws and some issues that have come back in the past that show, hey, he is human and makes mistakes like everybody else. And where I'm going with this is I don't think that he is immune to feeling jealousy. I don't think that he's immune to feeling hatred, to feeling, to being a negative person at times. And I think that that's what this is, respectfully. I think with Francis Ngannou, I think it's a lot of jealousy. I think it's a lot of him just feeling some type of way. For you to go out there and say, hey, Francis just isn't a good guy. Why are you changing your tune now? Right? The tune before this was, hey, it just didn't work out. Francis wanted a lot of money. And it seems like Dana White is playing this card to where, respectfully, nobody can say anything, right? He can say, you guys don't know the Francis that I know. I know Francis behind closed doors. You fans don't. Well, yeah, I don't think I've ever met Francis Ngannou. So if I were to go by that logic, yeah, he knows him better than me. But that's also, I think, him putting up a wall and him putting up a facade to where Dana White isn't immune to being negative and isn't immune to hating. I think that this is hatred. I think that this is him being jealous of Francis. It's not working out for him, but Francis is looking damn good. Francis is making his money. Francis is being, who he is. And I'm sorry, respectfully, for where the position that Francis Ngannou is right now. I don't think that Dana White was and is very cognizant, but this isn't new, right? Francis Ngannou was just dealt with, his son passing away. And obviously that was the whole story of his last fight. He did it for his son. And for me, for him to come out here and say, Francis isn't a good guy, Francis is a piece of shit. Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I think Dana White is trying to cover his ass. Dana White is trying to make himself look good. And like I said, Dana White could know Francis better than me, and there could have been signs that Francis showed that maybe he isn't a good guy. But these are the type of things personally that I like to see kept behind closed doors, right? You look at the conversation that he's had about Jake Paul. He's said some very negative things, but recently it's been, hey, I like Jake. Jake's doing well for the sport. That's what it is. I don't really want to comment on it. So for me, for him to switch his tune now is not really, I just don't like it. I don't appreciate it. But at the end of the day, right, this isn't new for Dana White. And this is, hey, as soon as somebody especially comes out and is doing very good for himself, Francis Ngannou's on top of the world, why are you changing your tune now? So I wasn't a fan of it. I don't think that needed to be said. And quite frankly, like, you have no, crossing paths with Francis right now. If you aren't going to do a cross promotion fight, what need is there to really go out there and bash Francis Ngannou? So, I wasn't personally a fan of it. And like I said, maybe he believes that maybe Francis has shown him signs that he is a shitty person, but to go out there and say that, and it's just a completely different tune switch to where it was 2 years ago and even a couple months ago, to where, hey, Francis, it didn't work out. Wish Francis all the best. But right now, coming out bashing him, saying he's a terrible person, I just thought that was completely out of pocket, Malik.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I feel like there's definitely some pain there. And obviously those fences probably will never be mended, but something needs to change. in regards to this Dana White and Francis Ngannou kind of going back and forth at each other in the media. I don't know if they need to have a conversation, at least behind closed doors. They don't have to work together again, but you hope that both parties can sort of walk away and just, wish each other well. Not even success, just wish you well.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. So let's talk about it. Ilia Topuria knocked out Max Holloway. I wish we had a clip to play here, but Ilia Topuria knocks out Max Holloway, defends his featherweight championship. First time Max Holloway has ever been knocked out. So a lot of people, this would happen. And the question now becomes, what's next for Ilia Topuria? Most people are saying we want to see another title defense from a champion. But when you knock out a guy like Max Holloway who's never been knocked out, who's looked at as the Iron Man of the UFC, man, you got to ask yourself, man, does that give him the opportunity to even jump the next title defense? And should he be fighting a guy like Islam Makhachev? Because guess what? That would feed families. Islam Makhachev versus the Ilia Topuria fight feeds a lot of families. Hell, people even clamoring for a Conor McGregor versus the Ilia Topuria fight because this guy is a superstar. The UFC finally have the superstar they were waiting for. Obviously, Alex Behead is already a superstar, but the guy is 37 years old.
Yeah.
He's 37 years old, and you got to ask how long is his fighting career going to be? You got Khamzat Chimaev, but he's not active enough. You got Tom Aspinall, but he's not getting the opportunity to fight a guy like John Jones to even project him into superstar stratosphere, if you will. But you got a guy like Ilia Topuria, who is the featherweight champion, who's knocked out two of the guys we consider featherweight goats in the span of a year. You have to ask yourself now, where does that put an Ilia Topuria in his future? Daniel, what say you?
I think that you're right. And it really is a thing of, especially for anybody who's, not necessarily the biggest UFC fan. I wish I could find a good comparison for this, but it really is. Think about Conor McGregor was the most exciting guy in the UFC. He wasn't necessarily the most dominant, but he was the most exciting guy. And the way he was finishing guys, he was on a historic run. Ilia Topuria right now is arguably, and to put it quite frankly, it was like his last two fights in theory are like an NFL team beating the two best, NFL teams in the previous two Super Bowls. That's what he did. He fought the two guys, like you said, that were in consideration for the best of all time at the division, and he beat them in their prime. That's the thing, right? He didn't beat a way too old Alexander Volkanovski. Maybe he wasn't at his full-on best, but he was still elite. And same thing with Max Holloway. This was coming off Max Holloway's biggest victory, arguably, and biggest performance of his entire career. And he did it in dominating fashion. So Ilia Topuria, to be honest, if you guys don't know his name, you guys should know his name, because I truly think he is going to be one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. And I think it comes from multiple things. First off, it comes from the confidence. It comes from his pure skill. On a skill-to-skill basis, he might be the most talented guy on the roster. And when you look at it, it's not just about skill. And that's something that I do want to touch on, is fighting is so much a mental game, and it is so much a toughness game. This guy might be one of the toughest fighters in the UFC. When you go look at his past two fights, he has gotten his face jabbed off. Maybe not terribly, but he is getting jabbed time and time again. His face was getting beat, and he never wavered. Not once was his mentality shifted. Not once did he start backing up. His game plan stayed the same. You go look at 5 fights ago, he fought Jai Herbert, and Ilia Topuria got basically dropped, got head kicked, got dropped. And as soon as he got back up, it was like nothing ever happened. Pressing right forward. And I think that's what I want to really recognize about Ilia. He's got the mindset of a champion. He's got the toughness of a champion. And I really have no doubts that, hey, this dude is only 27 years old. I don't think that he goes a Conor path right now and just goes fights for all the money. I think that this dude is of the timing of the mindset that, hey, the next 3 to 4 years, call it, that could get him 8 to 10 fights. He could be one of the greatest fighters of all time within the next 3 years. And I think that he's in this flow state to where, Malik, you're right. If he goes up and fights up a weight class, beats Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, I'm with you. And I appreciate you putting me on him a while ago, that this dude, we could be talking about him as up there with John Jones in 5 years. And it's crazy to say, maybe but I don't think it's too early to say that because of his 2 wins that he just put forth. So this dude is arguably the most impressive fighter on the UFC roster. And I'm just taking the time to appreciate him because that performance he put out, there's something special about when a player, when a team, when a coach says that they're going to do something and does the same exact thing. Ask yourself that question. How often do we see that? And I'm going to tell you, it's very rare that we see somebody, hey, I'm going to go knock this guy out. Here's how I'm going to do it. And he did that in 2 straight fights. So I applaud his confidence. I applaud his work ethic. I applaud his toughness. This dude is absurd. He's one of the cleanest strikers. And it's making history when somebody does something that's never been done before. And he did that against Max Holloway. In 31 career fights for Max Holloway, he has never been knocked out. He got knocked out this past weekend. So that says a lot about who Ilia Topuria is and what he's got on his horizon.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. I think the one thing that's really, really cool for Ilia Topuria is he is English speaking, right?
Yes.
You know, so I can feel comfortable saying that he is marketable. He is the face of the UFC. His whole aura is just super cool, like a mafia boss type thing with the rose that he hands out and all that stuff like that. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see. I want to move on over to Khamzat Chimaev. Before we do, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. I realize not everybody's the biggest UFC fans here, but hopefully you guys are learning a thing or two here. Khamzat Chimaev, is his championship reign inevitable? I think it is. I think that Khamzat Chimaev reminded everybody why he had so much superstardom when he first bursted onto the scene and everything that he was able to do, finishing all of his opponents. And, you know, I think a lot of people took some steam off after he fought Gilbert Burns, right? Or after he went to a decision with a guy like Kamaru Usman. Those guys are just super tough. And he goes out there, he shatters the jaw of Robert Whittaker. And if you ask me by that, I think he should jump a Sean Strickland. But I get it. Sean Strickland versus DDP was a very close fight. I think Khamzat Chimaev beats both of those guys. I think Khamzat Chimaev is a more disciplined guy. He's more controlled into who he is in terms of, you know, obviously he's got deeper with his faith. He's now a father. It feels like he's approaching the game a little bit different. And I think that's what he needed to sort of settle himself down. And I think Khamzat Chimaev is looking really nice, sitting very, very pretty, you know, for potential UFC middleweight championship status. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think to put it simply, this dude is, once again, he's one of a kind, and it's going to take a special fighter to beat him. To put it simply, you go look at a couple fights ago against Kevin Holland. This dude is one of the best wrestlers we've ever seen in the UFC, and he choked out a guy, Kevin Holland, and immediately after Malik, Kevin Holland's eyes were bloodshot red, and that shows this sport is brutal. That's the first thing. I wish I should have shown the photo of Robert Whittaker's teeth. To put it simply, his 3 front teeth were at his tongue. So basically his 3 front teeth broke off, his jaw broke off, and that was from one squeeze. That was from literally, you look at the photo right here, it's from half a second of that squeeze. And very rarely do you see a UFC fighter tap super quickly because, you know, UFC fighters are tough. They want to keep the fight going. They're going to try to get out of the chokehold. Khamzat Chimaev's squeeze and his wrestling is so different that as soon as he gripped, as he broke, I don't know if he broke his jaw, dislocated, but his teeth are messed up. And I think he is just an absurd fighter. And like you said, he was a crazy guy. He was yelling at the mic, saying, I'll kill everybody. This fight was different. He was composed and he's a different person, but that might be a more dangerous thing. He's got that pent-up energy, and he took it out in the fight. And there's really, in my opinion, it really is just one guy that I really think could beat him, and I think it's DDP. I think Dricus du Plessis
if he gives Dricus this kind of fight, like the stand-up fight, if he doesn't employ his wrestling, he can beat him. But Dricus does not have good wrestling. Dricus got taken down by Robert Whittaker and held down briefly there for a moment. Obviously, I can't say what I want to say on the show, but he has this certain amount of strength, this strength that just kind of just wills him into these fights when you're like, man, he has no business winning some of these fights that he wins. But I do think a guy like Khamzat Chimaev can 100% beat Dricus du Plessis if he employs the same game plan he employed when beating a Robert Whittaker. He just has to be smart about it. He can't just race like he did before, run across the cage and just take guys down and just hope to hold them down. And then, you know, they get back up because he didn't properly take his time and then he's gassed a little bit. And, you know, it just can't be that.
No, you're right. And I think what's unique about this is when we go and discuss, right, when we discuss the a division, there's very few divisions where I can list the names and we can tell you exactly how Khamzat would beat these guys, because Khamzat's literally said it. We can go name by name. Sean Strickland, he'd take him down, maul him. Israel Adesanya, one of the greatest, kickboxers of all time. Khamzat would take him down and maul him. Robert Whitaker, we saw what just happened. Then the rest of these names are Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, Kyle Barallo, Nastadina Mavov. There is not a single fighter in this division that I truly believe can stop the wrestling of Khamzat outside of Drickus. So that leads to the next question. If Khamzat gets a title shot and wins, how long is he going to hold that for? Because if I'm being honest, it could be for a long time, as long as, Khamzat really wants. So I think that should show just how crazy and how unique this situation is. There are 15 fighters in the top 15. I believe that there's only 1 out of 15 that could realistically beat Khamzat Chimaev, and that's really Dricus du Plessis. So I'm with you. I think Khamzat should get this next title fight, and if he were to win that, I think he rules the middleweight division for a long time.
Yeah, as long as he continues to stay disciplined. I think the biggest thing was Khamzat Chimaev getting more disciplined, staying within himself, and not getting too ahead. Getting too ahead. I want to move on over to the NBA real quick. Before we do, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. We appreciate you guys making us a part of your daily morning routine. Hey, Daniel, the Miami Heat just unveiled a statue of Dwayne Wade, man. And I know it's not really a huge topic, but I had to talk about it real quickly. Can we roll that clip, Jimmy, of the statue reveal of Dwayne Wade?
I can't believe that. Who is that guy?
Was that supposed to be Lawrence Fishburne? That seemed like anybody other than Dwayne Wade. Even Dwayne Wade seemed like he had a little bit of a laugh at it. He was trying to be happy, and maybe he was even happy. Obviously, to be honored, it's just your name. No one really cares if the statue looked like that, but that looked nothing like Dwayne Wade. That looked nothing like Dwayne Wade. Not for one. When I saw that, I was like, damn, man. I was like, they did my guy dirty. They did Dwayne Wade dirty with that, man. Who the hell signed off on that and said, you know what? That's a good statue. That's D Wade. That's one of the greatest players of our organization's history. Dang, what were your thoughts when you saw Lawrence Fishburne? I'm sorry, Dwayne Wade as the statue.
I thought it was hilarious. And I think that you just look at what Dwayne Wade's reaction is. He appreciates it. But this is, it seems weird. I'd be curious to see, and I feel bad for the person that made it, because they're going to see this reaction from everybody and say, damn, what the hell really happened? But this isn't new. We've seen it with the Cristiano Ronaldo one we were looking at, right? There's just been a lot of bad statues that just don't look like anything like the player. And you just got to hope that they figure this process out. But I hope that Dwayne Wade could have a good laugh about this. And I think he did. And I think it's cool. His name's in the storylines. It's hilarious. But you really just got to question what was their thought process. And I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to make his beard, and it just made it look off. But that does. But
Dwayne Wade doesn't even have a huge beard.
No,
you could have left it off too. I'm being honest. Yeah. I've seen D Wade without it. You could have left Dwayne Wade. It's like obviously when you go to LeBron James statue, you have to include the beard. The beard is so it encompasses part of who he is. But Dwayne Wade really you didn't have to do it that way. That was bad. I'm sorry. They could have left that one in the vault. That one was bad. And the AI one that I saw the Philadelphia 76ers do, how small it was, that was horrible. I don't know if they were trying to do it with Chuckle because he's like a small dude or whatever the case may be. But that was bad, man. Moving on. Listen, the Lakers are 3-0. The Lakers are 3-0, and they're playing like a championship level team right now. JJ Redick has these boys playing at a high level. It's crazy. AD back-to-back games scored 30 plus points. LeBron hitting all his shots. LeBron, triple-double. Had a triple-double the other night. What the hell's going on? Are the Lakers? I know it's only 3 games in, but JJ Redick right now to me is leading candidate for Coach of the Year. This dude, a lot of people wondered how he would fare with the Lakers and if he was going to get more out of this talented roster than a Darvin Ham. We're so used to the Lakers starting the season off, starting a little slow, then picking up momentum, getting wins, and we're like, who are they going to trade for at the deadline? You know what I mean? It's pretty cool to see them actually get some productivity out of this roster, and it's crazy. a lot of people made a lot of headlines regarding the Lakers not making any acquisitions via free agency this past year. And they didn't need to. The biggest acquisition they made was at the head coach position. They finally got a guy in here like a JJ Redick. And many people thought that when they fired Darvin Ham, that was, once again, LeBron is responsible for coach getting fired. Maybe Darvin Ham just wasn't that good. No. Right? Maybe he wasn't. Or maybe LeBron respects Darvin Ham more and the team respects, JJ Redick more, to the point where they're willing to allow him to actually do his job and coach and sit back, and they're willing to listen to him. What are your thoughts, though, on this Lakers team, Daniel?
I think that this Lakers team is exactly who we thought that they were. The past 2 years, and we were on the same page, I'm pretty sure, they look like title contenders. They look like they were a team that get them in the playoffs, get them against, these teams in the playoffs, and they could give them a run for their money. It just didn't happen that way. They got dog walked by the Denver Nuggets twice. And it was like, what's the issue? And I think that the coaching could have been an issue. I think the motivation could have been an issue. Right now, they're playing fun. They're playing loose. They're playing free. This team is title contenders, man. I think that the fact that they've got LeBron James and Anthony Davis, both these two, I'm sorry, if you have two superstars that can cohesively play together, you're going to fare a shot against anybody. So I think that this team is very damn good. I think that they are going to make the playoffs. I think that they're going to be able to, I think they're title contenders, Malik, and I like what they got going on. Shout out to what JJ Redick said about Austin Reeves, right? Austin Reeves, he said, I knew Austin Reeves was a good player. I didn't know he was this, high IQ and this good. And that shows that JJ Redick understands basketball. JJ Redick understands his team. And I'm going to buy into the hype. I'm going to buy into the videos of them at practice, one-on-one drills at the end of the game, and JJ Redick going up against Jackson Hayes and the team getting hyped over that, because I believe in culture. I believe in how a team's mentality is heading into a game, into a fight, that if they're playing loose, if they're playing free, that they're going to have success. And the question has never been LeBron James's talent. It's never been Anthony Davis's talent. Hell, it's never even been the true roster of this team. It's just been, can they put it together in the playoffs? And I think that this is going to be the year. So, Malik, if Anthony Davis is heading into the playoffs, I think that this is the number 1 or number 2 team in the Western Conference.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that
wow.
Well, I know. I think the Thunder are great. I think the Thunder could be a better team than them, but the rest of these teams, I think that they could give the Mavericks a serious run for their money, the Nuggets a serious run for their money. So all around, I've been very, very, very impressed with JJ Redick, very impressed with this team. My concern now is going to be, hey, can you stay healthy heading into the playoffs? And can you just continue building these other guys, build the Dalton Connect up to a point where, hey, he's confident playing 15+ minutes in the playoffs. Same thing with Max Christie. So it's funny that they have arguably the same exact roster as they did last year. But I feel like people are using last year and 2 years ago saying they were terrible teams. No, they were never a terrible team the past 2 years. They just didn't put it together in the playoffs. So I'm excited about this Lakers team that's coming from a Celtics fan.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see them put it all together and see if they can keep up this momentum. They have the Suns again tonight.
Yep,
they have the Suns again tonight. And I want to move on over to some of our favorite bets. Daniel, but first I want to start with Monday Night Football. Let's do Monday Night Football. What are some of your favorite bets for Monday Night Football tonight?
I think, and I'll give you guys one. I'll give you guys two. First off, make sure you guys subscribe to the Patreon. We've got a full plays on there. NFL, UFC. You had a huge UFC week this week. We won some money off of that, so I appreciate you for that. Russell Wilson is the guy I'm targeting, and I'm not necessarily targeting him, but I'm targeting the matchup with him, right? And the reason why I think that it's super important to look at Russell Wilson is because we have 1 week of film with Russell Wilson and the Steelers. We have 1 week to look at and say, hey, this is how he played versus looking at other players like a Daniel Jones. So I think that this is the avenue. If you want to target something that the books necessarily aren't so sure of, that the books necessarily don't have a lot of film on, they don't have a lot of, consistency with, it is the Russell Wilson led offense. And I think that you have to look at Najee Harris. And I think Najee Harris's rushing attempts over is my favorite play for this. And the reason why I like this is go look at what has Russell Wilson been successful with. It's been a rushing attack. And I think that this is a game where the Steelers could be playing from ahead. And Jaylen Warren is a good running back, but he is not a running back that I'm super confident in getting, 15+ touches. So give me Najee Harris's rushing attempts over 15.5. this Steelers team has always been, a defense-heavy, run-first offense. Last week against the Jets, Najee Harris had 21 rushing attempts. I think we see him hit 16. And if there were to be another play that I were to like for this Steelers side, I do like George Pickens to go over 60 yards. I think that this Giants secondary is one that I'm not super confident in. And we saw what George Pickens did last week against the New York Jets. He put up 110 yards against the Jets. And George Pickens, Russell Wilson, I think they're on the same page. Pickens had 9 targets last week. The only other receiver that had more than 4 or more than 3 was Calvin Austin. He only had 4. So give me George Pickens to go over 60 receiving yards. Najee Harris to go over 15.5 rushing attempts. And that's what I like. The side of the New York Giants, I'm not so sure that I'm really confident in anything, to be honest. I think that if there's anything, you could look at a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson's over receptions. You could look at Malik Neighbors over in receptions, but I'm going to keep it simple here. Give me Najee Harris rushing attempts over, and give me George Pickens to have a masterclass. I think he could go for 80+ yards.
Cooking, man. You're cooking. I'll move over to the NBA, but I also want to just make an announcement. People have been clamoring and asked me, Malik, when are we going to get TWSN merch? I'm happy to announce that the TWSN merch store is officially up. You can get all the TWSN gear that you're looking for. I've got this nice Under Armour long sleeve fleece hoodie thing going on with no hood, actually. It's pretty cool. I think that you guys will like some of the stuff that we do. All the stuff is high quality, working with brands like Nike, Under Armour. And we're really, really excited to bring this to y'all, and Adidas as well. So like I said, we've got a lot more in the pipeline, a lot of crazy stuff. My man, Gary Jellison was saying to me, "Who Dey the right way?" We actually put that on a shirt. We put that on a shirt and a hoodie, so you can go out there and get those. So if you're looking to get anything TWSN related, don't feel like you have to. I'm just saying if you want to, because I know people have asked about it before, you can officially scan the QR code. It's also going to be linked in the description. Head on over to the TWSN merch store. We'll have winter hats. We have winter jackets on there, and there's some really high quality stuff from brands that are respected. Head on over there, support TWSN, rock the merch, because there's only one way you should be wearing merch, and that is the right way. Hey, listen, want to keep the conversation flowing. Let's move on over to the NBA, Daniel. I want to get some of your favorite NBA bets, but before you give your favorite NBA, I think we can go tit for tat here, or I'll give you one and then I'll give my other one. Anthony Davis over 26.5 points is a play that I love tonight against the Suns. Listen, Yusuf Nurkic is the Suns center, but guess what? I believe that Anthony Davis is going to have a lot of success tonight against the Yusuf Nurkic Suns, and I think he's going to put up some points. JJ Redick is finding the right creative ways to utilize him, and I think it's a spot, right, in which I don't believe that it's a fluke. I think that what we're seeing from Anthony Davis is him coming into his own. This is really him being the team. 3 games, he scored 30+ points. JJ Redick is finding a way to utilize this guy. Now, I was more impressed, to be honest with y'all, with his performance against the Sacramento Kings and the Timberwolves, because I know that he typically is going to have a little bit of a better standing, I guess, against Yusuf Nurkic, especially because Yusuf gets in foul trouble a lot. But I really was impressed with the Kings game, because he usually struggles against Domantas Sabonis. And he was able to come out in a big way. I was worried about the Minnesota game because Rudy Gobert, he put together a good game again. So 3 games in a row, 3 30+ point games, and you got to start asking yourself, is this the year where we finally see Anthony Davis break into MVP talks? Is this the year where we actually, and it's only 3 games in, and obviously it's a long season, but I've been so impressed with JJ Redick and his ability to switch guys off one another and have everybody touch the ball to field a sufficient offense, man. I gotta be honest with you. I think that the Anthony Davis is gonna have a big game against the Phoenix Suns. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that AD has a massive game, and I think that this is a game where I think you could parlay a lot of these pieces. You could go parlay, whether it's a LeBron assist. I really like, even look at what Austin Reeves has done. So I'm with you. I really like that. If I were to give it one right now, I'm going to go with the sneaky one. I'm going to go with Jalen Green over 21.5 points against the San Antonio Spurs. This is a Spurs team that just isn't very good at defense outside of Victor Wembanyama. So to put it quite frankly, they've got a 7'4" alien who sits in the paint and is rejecting pretty much anything that comes into the paint. So how you defeat that is you stretch the floor. And I'm going to bet on a guy. Personally, this is how I like to bet as well, Malik, is I'm going to bet on a guy that has a ton of opportunity, and that's Jalen Green. The dude is shooting 22 times a game, albeit maybe inefficient, but to put it quite frankly, he plays like an AAU play. He's flashy. You go look at some of his, plays. Look at 2 games ago against the Hornets. There was a stretch of 2 minutes where he shot 5 threes. So it's like, I know for a fact he's going to get the minutes. I know for a fact he's going to put up the points or the shots because that's what he does. He never sits on the court and just sits in the corner. He's the one bringing the ball up the court. Fred VanVleet's been playing more of a shooting guard role. So Jalen Green over 21.5 points. I think we could see him hit 25 plus points tonight. And 25 plus is at plus 140. I think we could even see him go up and hit 30 plus. But I've got a couple more. I want to go with one.
Well, I'll give you one. Since we're going tit for tat. LeBron James over 7.5 assists. I like that spot for LeBron. LeBron isn't, LeBron's in a spot now where I feel like he's going to rely a lot on the talent that he has around them. I think he's going to try and get guys like D'Angelo Russell involved in the game, Austin Reeves involved in the game. But Anthony Davis playing the way he's playing, it alleviates a lot of the pressure on LeBron having to be the primary offensive focal point. And I think LeBron continues to play in a big way. LeBron James over 7.5 assists is a play that I love this game. Daniel.
I'm an absolute fan of that. And if I were to go with another one, I'm going to go Nikola Vucevic over 10.5 rebounds. It's definitely a weird one. He plays for the Chicago Bulls. And the reason why I like this is you look at the matchup, it's with the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies have given up the most rebounds to opposing centers so far this year. Not for any specific, or, not for any non-specific reason, but for the specific reason that their starting center is a 7'3" Zach Edey who sits in the paint. He is not a guy on the outside. He sits in the paint. So what does that mean for the opposing center? They're going to be sitting around the paint just like him. So whether Zach Edey gets in foul trouble like he did at the beginning of the season, but you go look at what centers have done, against this Grizzlies team. They've been absolutely dominating this Grizzlies team. You go look at Alperen Sengun had 15 rebounds the first game. And then you just go look at they're averaging, 16 rebounds against this Grizzlies team. So Nikola Vucevic has had 11, 10, and 13 rebounds so far this year. Give me his over 10.5 rebounds. That's another one I like. And I've got one more.
Yeah, that Grizzlies bowl game is something I'm interested in. You know what I was looking at though?
Ja Morant.
How'd you know? Ja Morant over 19.5 points is a play that I'm taking tonight. Ja Morant to score 20 points against this Bulls team, I'm taking that. I like that play. I think Ja Morant obviously is rounding into form, coming back off that injury and all that stuff like that. I think Ja Morant shows up in a big way. Danny, what else do you like?
No, I love that. And if there's anything I'm really trying to figure out, I want to bet this Celtics versus Bucks game.
Why are we connected like this?
I don't know. I really want to bet
Why are we connected like this?
I'm trying to think, like, here's my early thought process on the team. I think that I do like on the opposite side. I think Damian Lillard's points is way too low. 22.5 against a Celtics team that they've got good defenders, but we know he's going to get the shots. We know he's had success last year. I believe he put up a 33-point performance against Celtics. So I like Dame Lillard over points. And it really is going to come down to right now. I like Al Horford over 8.5 points. He just dropped 17 points last game. He had 5 of 8 threes. And this is a team in the Milwaukee Bucks that they've got a center in Brook Lopez that is not very good at defending the perimeter. So I like Al Horford. And I really wanted to take Jason Tatum, but I don't know, man. So if there's anything I like Dame points. I like Al Horford points. And I think I'm just going to watch this game. Yeah.
There's one last play that I have for y'all. Well, 2 last plays that I have for you. If you guys are looking to put together a little parlay, listen, I'm trusting the vision. I'm trusting the volume that I saw last game. Russell Westbrook, 10 points tonight against the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors, I do not like their depth. Their depth struggles. And regardless, whoever they have out there in guarding Russell Westbrook and his explosivity. There's 2 plays that I like for tonight's game. In that game, listen, Russell Westbrook, 10 points, sitting at plus 125. That's good money. Go chase that. And Russell Westbrook over 3.5 assists. He had about 4 or 5 assists last game. I think he shows up in a big way against the Raptors. And I think he really, really does help them, especially with that second unit. I think we start to see this Denver Nuggets team try and put some stuff together. It's going to be a great night of basketball. I'm excited for it. You should be excited for it. Subscribe to the TWS and Patreon. Win you guys some money. We've been live for an hour and 25 minutes. It's going to be a jam-packed week. We're going to be talking Bengals all week. We're going to be talking bets all week. We're going to be talking about NBA all week. And the best thing you guys can do for yourself is stay locked in with us. We appreciate you guys for making us a part of your daily morning routine. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, having the conversation, and that is the right way. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., everybody.